Hello and welcome back to part 3 of our calm reflections. Okay, so I was pretty glad with the progress we made in the last couple of weeks. We've got our underpainting down, got the base of our sky and obviously all those lovely, the sea and all that sandy reflection. And overall, I'm kind of pretty happy with the direction it's taking. So now what I'm going to be doing is basically going back and sort of adding a few more colours here and there, and sort of bringing this painting to a finish. Quite a long session this one, as I go backwards and forwards a few times with all of my gentle layers, but starting up in the sky there. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm paying attention to these clouds now. I'm going to bring that sky to its sort of conclusion really, and on looking at it now that I've got the bottom of the painting in, I want to balance that up a little bit more. I feel that those the clouds that can need a little bit more blue in them. They're a little bit too grey, so I want some of the blue that's obviously behind that cloud sort of showing through a little bit. So that's what I'm doing now, is first of all going in with that sort of blue, one of the blues that I've used down below. It's going to help the painting sort of pull together, and obviously it connects the top to the bottom a little bit more. So what I'm doing is I'm coming around with that, and all those places in the clouds and whatever that I can see those darker shadows coming in with that colour there. Now, as always, with me, my touch is very light. Again, I don't want to obliterate all those pretty colours we've got under there, the lilacs and things like that. I still want some of that to come through. So my touch is ever so light. And as you can see at the moment, what I was just doing there is I've gone into the sort of sky behind. As I'm going, I'm kind of refining these clouds. As I mentioned earlier, I love these cloud shapes that, are formed in the sky. So I'm following the reference photo, and as I always say, it's got the information, so why not use it? And I did want to create this scene in particular, so I do pay quite a bit of attention up in the sky, looking at these cloud shapes and how they're forming, paying real close attention to where the values start to shift and things. And so up in that sky, I've used a combination of different colours, all in a couple of different colours to any one value. And I've added a little bit more pink into that sky, peachy pinks, so pretty. None of the colours I've used up there are white, none of them are pure white. They're all sort of like the lightest shades. So you've got the lightest shades of lilac and the lightest shades of pink, and a soft sort of cream, the lightest sort of almost white, but sort of with a tinge of yellow over to the left hand side there on the whitest areas of those clouds. And so I'm pretty happy with what's going up on in the sky there. I might just come back a little bit later and do a few more little tweaks here and there. But in general, I'm pretty happy with the balance of it. I'm liking the colours going on up there, and those clouds are sort of starting to feel, fairly realistic. And, I'm liking the way they're feeling for the time being. So what I'm going to do is, come down the painting a little bit. And the first thing I'm doing is working on that horizon line there, working on those hills and things. Now what I'm doing is I'm going between the sky and the hill colour there. Now I've decided that on that hill, if you look at your reference photo, you do actually still see, even though it's sort of like in the distance and dark, you still do see sort of lighter areas and darker areas within that hillside. So I'm trying using again a couple of different values there, making sure that they're within the bluey lilac-y realm there, because I want to make sure that that's in the distance, just literally just sort of looking at the reference photo again. I'll come back and sort of do all of my final highlights and things later on at the picture, but I want to bring it up to this next level. Basically now we're just deepening these levels, we're making things richer and just refining that little bit more. So now you can see me coming down, and I'm coming down into my sea there, and again I'm going back to my reference photo, looking backwards, looking back as to where those sort of darker areas are in that sea, and where those sort of waves are crashing and things. Now, as up in my sky, I'm not going to be too pernickety, but I've got to get it feeling like that that it, it feels like it's going in the right direction and things. So again, take a little bit of time in here, going backwards and forwards with my different values here in the sea, lightening some areas, darkening some others, sort of like I'll also be sort of paying attention to those little wave shapes and things like that. And so, as you can see, that sea sort of starting to feel a little bit more like it. I've got some waves going on there. Now, I've used within my light tones, I've used again a couple of different values, a couple of different colours. The waves at the back are slightly darker in their value than these ones to the front here. And I've used like combination of very pale pinks, very pale lilacs, very pale aquas, and then obviously the bluey and purpley tones of my sea there. So that's what I've done, and again at the moment feeling happy enough with that I feel that that's sort of like in balance with the sky and things at the moment. So what I'm doing now is I'm coming over to my beach on the left hand side here, and I'm starting off with my darker values where that water is starting to hit those sands over in the back there, and I'm using sort of the same color that I used in the last week in sort of like our base layers. I've come in with that lovely sort of greyed out mauvey purple there, and again a couple of different colours of purple. This one's slightly darker in value. So what I'm doing again is I'm looking at the reference photo now. What I've got to do is I've got to make sure that pier and that hillside over to the right hand side feel as if they're behind these ones at the front here. So I'm using colour to help me do that, and also sort of the colour is helping me push some things further into the distance and bring some things further forward. I'm using sort of slightly warmer colours on the trees and the beach there. Now again, finding my balance really. It wasn't quite right. My base layers they're nearly there, but they're not quite right. So what I'm doing is I'm going backwards and forwards, and I think I come back in and I darken down that beach a little bit because it's a bit too light when I stand back and look at it. And that's always a good idea as you're going along. Every now and again, just stand back, look at your reference photos, squint your eyes, and then you can see the differences in those values a lot easier. Another thing, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it in week 1, if you're struggling to see your values, just turn your picture into grayscale, and it'll soon turn your picture into grayscale, and perhaps take a photograph of your pastels that you're using, and then turn that photo into grayscale as well. And you can see, because sometimes when you get colour involved, values they can be deceptive. What you think is darker than something actually isn't, So often if you take a photograph of your pastels, that's a really good way to see whether you've got that right balance. But if not, if you don't have sort of access to fancy sort of to be able to turn your photo into grayscale and things, I think most apps do it now on phones and tablets and whatever. But if you haven't, it's often why you see sort of like artists sort of making funny faces at their pictures. Basically, what they're doing is they're squinting to take out that colour really and just see levels of light and dark. And as I always say, it's those values. You'll hear every artist sort of like go on and on and on about values. I can't begin to stress enough how that's what makes the difference. The colour, you can do pretty much what you like as long as you've got those levels of values, then your picture's going to be, to feel balanced and right. And so now you're going to see me come down into all of these reflections here, using the same colours that I used in the underpainting and our base layers, and as I did in the sky and the sea, adding a few more little colours there, getting a little bit more of a pinky vibe going on, and getting some of those really lovely lush aquas too. So literally what I'm doing is, sort of trying to find my, I'm not fabulous at angles as I think I mentioned last week. So this session does take me some time going backwards and forwards. But I'm building up my layers as I go and sort of like smoothing out some areas. And every now and again, as you just saw there, I pop off into a different area. If I see something, I'll just go off and do it, So I've just sort of like realised, I thought, oh, my sky I want a little bit more pink in my sky. So up I pop and pink it. And over to the sea, change that a little bit. So really what I'm doing is basically, in general, I'm working on the lower half of the painting at the moment, just going backwards and forwards, finding those levels of light and dark and trying to work out those angles. All right, so I'm not going to talk you through this because I think you can probably see what I'm up to here. And I'll let you to listen to some music rather than my voice. And I'll pop back in a mo. So as you can see, adding a few more colours there, introducing some of those lovely little lighter tones there of the little soft and subtle pinks and things, and just, going on and just building up my layers, going backwards and forwards. So I do hope you're enjoying the video and you feel that you're learning something along the way. If you do enjoy, if you are enjoying it and you would like to see more from me, please do give me a thumbs up. It'll help my channel grow, and I can keep on bringing some videos to you. So please do give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you too. Or even better, come and subscribe. That would be even better. Thanks so much. Okay, well, I'll let you watch this for a couple more mows, and I'll come back in when I bring in some pencils. All right, see you in a mo. Okay, so I've got some really lush colours going on underneath all that. And now what you're seeing me doing is coming in with some pencils now. Now, this certainly isn't essential. You can do all this with soft pastels. But for those of you that know me, you know that I started off with my pastel pencils, so I always do tend to veer back to them in times of working out angles. But basically, I'm using the pastel pencils. I'm using the same sort of similar. I've chosen sort of like similar colours to that I've used my soft pastels in, and basically sometimes I'm using them as a blending tool, because basically pastel pencils, they don't lay down anywhere near as much pigment as the soft pastels do, so they're really great. You can use them. You can either put down some sort of sharper marks with them, like if you're painting a portrait, for example, you can come in and do a whisker and things like that, or you can use them, you can use them as a blending tool, and it lays down a little bit of colour. It just gives that little bit of an extra layer and helps you smooth out in areas where you don't want to sort of lose too much colour. Come in with your pastel pencils, and that really helps. But as I say, you don't have to have them by any means. You can do all this in soft pastels. I just find it easier this way. All right, so I'll let you watch this for the next few minutes, and I'll pop back in a mo. So as you can see, sort of did take me some time. My gosh, those angles. Oh dear me! I wish I'm getting better at them, but my heavens! And in this scene, you know, they do all go off in different directions, and oh goodness me, took me quite a while to get there. But I think there's light at the end of the tunnel now. I'm almost sort of like I'm on the final throw here. So as I say, hope you've enjoyed the video, and obviously if you do want to watch it at a slower pace, you know, where it's more, you know, where you can perhaps paint along with me, consider joining me over on Patreon, where I obviously, you know, do slow down and give you sort of a fuller explanation of what I'm doing and why I'm doing things. But hopefully in this nutshell video you've learnt a lot. But as I say, if you do want to come and join me over on Patreon, I'd love to have some patrons. It'd be really cool. Okay, so what I'll do, hopefully you can see how this painting has come together though, and you can see sort of like how I've built it up in soft and gentle layers, using different sort of blending methods throughout the painting, sometimes with a little sponge, sometimes with my finger, sometimes lifting out colour with a dry paintbrush, but basically just going through all of those layers, adding some down, taking some out, and you know, until I get happy with the balance. So as I say, almost there now, so I'll let you watch these last few minutes, and I'll catch up at the end. All right. And so for those of you who are still with me, thank you so much for staying the course. Obviously, it did take some time to bring this painting together, but I was pretty happy with the end result. I really enjoyed it, and I loved actually getting lost in, sort of all that detail going backwards and forwards. Obviously, as I say, you can paint this much quicker, and this is, as I think I mentioned last time, this is one of the paintings that I do go back and revisit, and often I set myself up a challenge to be able to do it a little bit quicker, a little bit freer, and sort of change it up a little bit. And in the next instance, I use a different colour palette and create a painting with quite a different feel at the end, which I have done. I managed to do in a shorter amount of time. But as I say, each painting is a discovery for me, and it doesn't worry me if it takes a long time. Goodness, I love to paint, so what could be better, really? So anyway, I do hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've had a go at painting along with me, and obviously if you do have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. So thanks so much for spending some of your time with me. I wish you a lovely week, and happy painting.